You're listening to the TalkBox sign. You're listening to the TalkBox. Let's talk about it. Talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Yeah, you're listening to the TalkBox sign. You're listening to the TalkBox. Let's talk about it. Talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. TalkBox. You're listening to the TalkBox sign. You're listening to the TalkBox. Let's talk about it. Talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Yeah, you're listening to the TalkBox sign. You're listening to the TalkBox. Let's talk about it. Talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Hey, you guys, it's your girl Sonia G here on the TalkBox. We got another special and a great show for you on tonight. But before we dive into that, you know what we say here on the TalkBox. Every day above ground is a good day. We got another day, another opportunity to get some things right that we didn't have quite right on yesterday. We above the dirt and the dirt is not above us. So we're going to dive right in. We got part 2 from last week. So before we jump in, I want to remind you that you can give us a call and be on the show today at 615-893-1450. And make sure you share the live. It is voting season, you guys, and it makes a difference. And we're going to welcome Pastor Leon Porter back into place today. We're talking about Black folk and Christians voting for Trump. Yay!
Hey. So glad to be here. And let's be very specific. Not black folk, but black men.
Black men.
Voting and Christians voting for Trump. You know, last week was phenomenal. Got a lot of feedback from the show on last week. And thank you for the opportunity to come back and get some more good information and dialogue out there. You know, I went to vote on Saturday, and it was so amazing. When I went in, there was a lady that was 98 years of age, African-American woman, never voted before. This was her first time voting, and that speaks to how important this election is. And so I want to be very focused and transparent tonight as we talk about black men and Christians voting for Trump. It's a very disturbing situation, because as a Christian, let's deal with that first. As a Christian, you know, I've always been taught to tell the truth. As a Christian, as a pastor, as a child, we've always talked about how important it is to tell the truth. And to see so many Christians saying that they are voting, and again, you vote for who you choose to, but when we think about how we raise up our children, what we tell our congregants, what we talk about in life in general, about honesty and character and integrity, and to have so many people that will put that down for a political party, a political point, right. Because there's no way that on the other side, if we did the things that's happening on the Republican side, it would not be acceptable.
Oh, no.
And so it amazes me how many Christians are willing to put down their Christian Bible, their Christian banner, to vote for an individual that lies, that's a felon, that cheats, that steals, that degrades, that causes division. And for some reason, during an election, none of that matters. And I would just love to hear from somebody out there that would love to get into a good, healthy conversation and debate. Why is that acceptable?
Right. Well, here's the thing also about it. I believe that we all need to do something that I call a sin check. within ourselves and see why we are participating in things that's ungodly. But I can give a little bit of a pushback and say that no, Vice President Harris is not perfect. And there's some things on the Democratic side that I don't side with. However, when you put them on a scale and you do a measurement, then you know, Trump is just an immoral person. And when you think about some of the things that he say, you know, I love my uneducated people. I can shoot somebody and not lose a supporter, you know, that sort of thing. But I think it's really sad that it's a felon running for the highest office of the land, and you won't even allow felons to vote. So he can't even go in and put a vote in for himself.
Yeah.
So why should I vote for you when you can't vote for yourself?
Well, actually, and you make a great point. We understand the propensity of politicians, and politicians a part of what they do. They're very protective on their policies as they're running. But one thing that I've witnessed from other Republicans and Democrats is it's not like you just go out and intentionally live a lie. But when we talk about Donald Trump, and I'm strictly talking about Donald Trump, he lives a lie. And then he uses divisive methods and techniques. He's not doing anything that wants to bring the country together. Everything that he wants to do is about dividing the country. When we have the greatest country, I still believe in America. And you have someone saying that it's a trash bin for other countries. What type of citizen are you to even say something like that? And when you talk about him not voting for himself, the first thing that he said that he was going to do Friday is go vote for himself. And so we have individuals on that side that are supposed to uphold the law, that will allow him to break the law. And the same person that break the law, if we broke the law, we would be persecuted, prosecuted, and everything else for doing what we're giving permission for the person that wants to hold the highest office in the land.
And that is such a major problem and a major red flag. But again, my worst nightmare with this election is the Project 2025. Project 2025, as I went over some of the things I've been talking about, I have the page numbers for it, the things, and then for a black man who was strung up on trees, who was tied to the back of trucks, and the truck take off and your body was dismembered, to even want to vote for Trump at this point with Project 2025 in place. And you cannot deny that it's not their agenda. Number one is called the mandate. So, and number two, the people who wrote this mandate are people who he plans on putting in his cabinet. That should terrify us. And you know, the thing about it is they got some first day stuff that they're going to implement. Firing 80,000 federal employees and replacing them with MAGA people, not people that is qualified for the job. Now, you want to talk about DEI, we can put that side by side with MAGA. Just because they're MAGA, they're going to get the job? No.
Well, and the reality is, when you think about what Donald Trump is doing, Donald Trump is not running because he wants to be president. He's running because he wants to be a dictator. He's running because he does not want to go to jail. And so when with 2025 and that proposal and everything agenda that they're talking about, the bigger picture is he wants to be a ruler because he didn't take care of the job when he had it the first time. When he got the job the first time, he didn't believe he was going to get it. Because anytime that you come down and say that you can kill people and you won't lose the vote, you can shoot somebody in the head, you don't really want the job. What happened the first time, what we cannot allow to happen this time, is we can't be dismissive about the things that he says and act like dismiss it and say, oh, he don't really mean that. And I've heard a lot of politicians say he really doesn't mean that. And I said this last week. How can you make excuses for something that somebody says and that person doesn't even make excuses for what they said?
Yeah, because he just flat out, he speaks. When he speaks, you better believe it because he believes what he's talking about. I know this week too, it was kind of crazy because I watched both sides. And when he was 3.5 hours late to his own rally, and I watched the video that he showed the people, saying, you know, I had some more important stuff to do, and you know, we're gonna do something special when I get there. You know, how long will you allow someone to insult your intelligence?
Yeah.
Because that's what's really happening. When he says things like, I love my uneducated people. I love that. That's my black man right there.
Yeah.
And people who make excuses for the things that he say, and people who make excuses for his racism, you know, you're going to be held accountable for that also.
Well, what's really troubling is that you have somebody that does not take the highest office in the land seriously. And then you have people that's voting for them that don't take it seriously.
Yes.
And so it makes you wonder for all these people that talk about how much they love their country. If you love your country that much, there are just some things you don't ignore. You don't ignore hatred. You don't ignore somebody that loves Hitler, somebody that's in love with Putin. You know, if you love your country, you want to do things for your country that's going to strengthen your company and uplift your country. And so you have a lot of people that they have their own agenda. I said this, I was talking to some friends earlier. And one thing that I truly believe, I do believe this, there's going to be a lot of Republicans that will not come against Trump publicly, but will vote against him privately. Because I do believe that there are some people that really want him to go away. Okay. And the reason I say that is because the people that have come out against him, their lives have been threatened.
Yes.
And so on a real level, you have to think about that. Okay. You have to think about your family. You have to think, and that's just reality. And so I do believe that there are some people, when you have the major generals coming out now, that have never been political, and they're telling you how serious it is to keep this man away from the White House. That says a lot about where our country is as far as people not wanting him to have a job that he got fired from a few years ago.
Yes, because he was fired. But that is very, very, it's happening a whole lot, not just General Mike Milley, but they are now releasing tapes with Lindsey Graham, things that Lindsey Graham had said, things that Mitch McConnell had said, you know, and those are the people that Republicans had looked up to. So we need to listen to that, because if America has always been called the great experiment. And so we've made it thus far, but that does not solidify going forward, and we can tear it down just as easy as we've been going along.
Well, Trump has his base, and his base is going to vote for him no matter what.
Right.
Those are individuals. What's really troubling to me is he went to a church a few weeks ago, a black church, and this man that doesn't call, he calls 1 Corinthians 1 Corinthians.
Yes.
Okay, the same man that hold a Bible and he's holding it upside down. And so you have Christians that literally trust what he's saying now, when before now he didn't have no care for you. He had no thought of you. And you have a man that wants to talk about the Bible now, that before now you still don't hear him talk about Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior.
No, you don't.
You don't hear any of that. So what he does is he instills fear He intimidates people, but then he wants to be smooth. And the smoothness I don't see, but those that think he's charismatic or whatnot, they listen to him. You know, I learned a long time ago, my ears are not trash cans, and so you're not going to dump your trash in me. Right. And so, but just to shift a little bit, when we talk about last week we were talking about the black men that's voting for Trump. I want to make some clarity on that. The men that he's going after is young black men. He's going after young men that have gotten caught up into this Bitcoin and all of that. So they are not really loyal to a party. They are loyal to their pocket. And so for them, a lot of this is pocket issue because they don't even understand what's before them. If one of those young black men did the things that Trump did, you would be in jail. Right. You would be a felon. You would not be able to vote, as we have many young black men that can't vote. And you're going to vote for someone who did something that if you did, you wouldn't even be free. Right. What kind of sense does that make?
It doesn't. It doesn't. But I want to go even a little further when you're saying that they're voting for their pockets, but you have to understand you're looking at something through a silo. And so you're looking at your pocket, but see, your pockets is not going to be able to be filled when Project 2025 get implemented anyway, because Project 2025 says that the police can pull over black and brown people. It has it in there, black and brown people, and hold you indefinitely. So it doesn't matter the money that's in your pocket if you're not able to use it. And they're looking for ways to keep especially our black men down because they don't want the black man to soar. And so why would you vote that way?
Yeah, but that's the reason why as I talk about it on a level, because some of these young men, they will never crack open the 2025 agenda. They'll never get that far. And so what I choose to do as a leader in my community, as a pastor, is I try to reach them where they are and talk about the things that's common sense every day. You have a man that didn't care about you before, don't care about you now, but anytime that you have somebody that wants to, as we say, smooze you to get your vote, but after you vote for them won't have anything to do with you, then that's what you have to think about.
And you have to go a little deeper too, because sometimes I have gotten into some heated fellowship with my fellow Republicans and they're trying to say that he did do a lot for the black race. But when you break it down and look at those things, he initially said, no, we're not doing that. And then he had to be pushed into doing some of the things that he did. But then we look at the COVID situation. Millions of people died because he was ineffective in his leadership. And so we don't never know when another crisis is going to come. And so we need somebody in leadership position that can handle a crisis. Yeah. And when you look at him, he can't handle a crisis. Do you want to know how I know he can't handle a crisis? Because I can bait him. I can say something about him. He pick it up on something and he's going to roll with it. Yeah. So he can't deal with Twitter feeds. So he can't deal with a crisis.
Yeah, well, one of the things that we have to be careful about is not getting political amnesia. Because when he had a plan that President Obama left for him for a pandemic, because when smallpox happened, they put a plan together to handle a pandemic. Right. But when you think you are so smart that you don't need anybody, that nobody can tell you anything. So everything that he needed to be successful, I said this when he was president before, he had an opportunity to be one of the best presidents we ever had. And here's why. When you have that many people following you, if you chose to do good, you could have taken all of that bad you done. And if you would have done good, you could have had a second term. But when you look at the economy that he inherited a great, not a good, but a great economy. He inherited a pandemic plan to handle that. But when you have someone that is more into their own stuff, which is a narcissist. When they look out for their own self, there's nothing you can do to tell them anything. So what we have to be careful about is we have to educate our young men, our black men. I was talking about how we don't have any great national leaders. That it was sad before Kamala stepped up. The only choices we had for president was Biden and Trump. But when you had Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and the others, Al Sharpton and those leaders, it started on a local level. Yeah. And from a local level, they had the Jesse Jackson, they had the support from the churches, they had the support from the community, which propelled them to a high level. Right. But now, even locally, we got churches on every corner. Yes. And we fighting one another. And so we can't even come together to educate the young black men that we need to, so that we can build up and develop a national leader from a local level.
Yeah. And it starts locally. Everything starts locally. Even with our economics and things like that. That's one thing I like about Kamala. We're going to start from the bottom and build up. And that makes so much sense to me too. This a side note. That makes so much sense to me, because when you build a house, you don't build the roof first.
Nope.
You build the foundation. And so when you're looking at Trump and how he's running things, he's putting us against one another, don't have anything good to say about anybody. He did an interview and they asked him, do you have anything good about Vice President Kamala Harris? I don't care what kind of relationship we have. I can't stand you and you can't stand me, but I can find something good to say about the next person. But when you are so self-centered and such a narcissist and a fascist and everything else that he tends to be, I just don't understand why anybody would. And again, full disclosure, up until he ran, I was voting Republican.
Right. And if I saw a Republican, heard a Republican that had the character, the policies and things that I could stand on, that I believe in, because though I am a Democrat by party, I'm a realist by nature.
Right.
Okay. So when you talk about him finding something good to say about Kamala, you can find Satan wouldn't say nothing good about Jesus. Yeah. And so you have to understand that many people are a product of their environment. He's had a devilish history. He's had a devilish past. And so, and when you talk about a foundation, as a black man, a young man, a man, period, one of the things that I have always learned is we take care of the women. There are boundaries when it comes to a man. You can talk about a whole lot, but then when you cross that boundary and you talk about the women, it has always been the men that was supposed to have the backbone to stand up for the women. You have men that will dismiss what he says about a woman. And as a man, if you have to put a woman down to build yourself up, you're already down.
I ain't even thought about it like that. So what do you say to men in general who have a problem with this woman? You said it last week, but I want to hear it again. Just because she's a woman.
Okay. I thank you for asking that question. So this is what I said to my church this morning, to every man that was listening. Take the name Kamala out and put your mama's name there. Put your sister name there. Put your niece name there. Put your aunt name there. And if you wouldn't let him talk to one of those women like that, why would you allow him to talk to her like that? When we have young girls that could aspire to be at the highest office in the land, to be a vice president or a president, you mean to tell me that you want her to see what's happening now, and you go back in history, and when your grandchild looks at you as a man and they pull up the history of what happened then, and they can say to you, Granddaddy, that's what you voted for? Daddy, that's what you voted for? You voted for someone that degraded women, and I'm a woman. You voted for somebody that wanted to tell me how my body can be used or what I can do with my body, and you were okay with that? So you have women that these Project 2025, and these Republicans that are wanting to control women's bodies. You have women that the only way that they can get medical help is if they're about to lose their life.
Yes. Well, and even in that case, some of those cases, the doctors are so afraid of going to jail that they, their hands is tied, because I can't risk going to jail, and I have a family too. So it runs so deep. But at the end of the day, in less than 2 weeks, there's gonna be a new president. My prayer is that we not allow Trump to get back in there and tear down the hundreds of years that we've gotten this far.
Yeah. And what's beautiful about what you said, when you all get a chance, read 1 Samuel chapter 8. 1 Samuel chapter 8 talks about how when the people wanted a king, and God said, they're not rejecting you, they're rejecting me. And I do believe this with everything in me. Two things I believe. I believe that when individuals go vote on the 5th, and you will go vote on the 5th, I believe that there are some people that when they step in that booth, they're going to vote right. Okay. I also believe this, that if for some reason that Trump happens to get in office, one thing we cannot forget is God is still in control.
Yes, he is.
God still sits on the throne. And what we have to be mindful about now is reminding ourselves that God is still large and in charge. And we can't get so anxiety filled and so frustrated that we lose our hope and faith, because if we don't keep that, we'll have heart attacks and he'll be sitting in office.
Right.
And so we still have to trust the master's plan, even if the Republicans got a master plan.
I want to speak to those, while we got a few more minutes left. I want to speak to those people who say, well, I'm not voting for neither one of them. It's the both of them are evil. Both of them are this, that, and the other. This is not the race to sit out. This is not the race. I was talking to my girlfriend in Baltimore. This is not the race to sit out, and nor is this the race to divide the vote. We know that there's some independents running. I love Cornel West, but we can't divide those votes, because that's another way that he'll get in there. Let
me help you right there with the fence riders, because I know our time is good. So one of my students asked me last week, what do you say to those that don't like any one of them and choose not to vote? And I told her, I said, if you don't vote, you voted. And so the best thing to do is weigh the pros and cons of both. Weigh the positive and negative of both. And when you do that, the list that you see the positives on, real positives, then that's where you vote. But if you don't vote, you do vote, because you'll wind up getting what you did not want.
Oh, wow. That is so true. But this, I'm just saying again, let me reiterate, this is not the election for us to take a seat. It's not.
Well, we can't sit this one out because too much is at stake. And I'm going to stand on the side of right, and I'm going to stand on the side of women. And one of the biggest issue is this reproductive piece that's on the agenda. And every woman needs to be able to decide what she's going to do with her body. And no man that has no cycle, no man that has no reproductive anything has any right to tell a woman what she can do with her body. And as a matter of fact, it was a woman's body that you came through. So you ought to have some sensitivity there.
Well, you should. But I will say this on the back of that. It's kind of crazy, because a lot of the men, it's so funny, because a lot of the men who voted to get rid of Roe versus Wade was also some men that people dug up. This is the era of information, and half of them done paid for abortions. So that means that you swept your stuff up under the rug, but you don't want to allow anybody else to have something swept up under the rug. You guys, I am coming to a close right now. We want to thank Pastor Leon Porter for coming with us 2 weeks in a row. I want to thank everybody for tuning in on today. I want you to tune in next week. Next week, we're going to have Pastor Clyde Gresham talking about worldly verbiage in the church. But I appreciate you. Is there anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, just keep your head up. Don't watch so much of this TV that it depresses you. Vote. Go out and vote. And once you do that, that's all you can do and feel good about it.
All right then, you guys. I'm your girl, Sonia G, here on the TalkBox. I'll see you next week. Same time, same place.